Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the board game Bärenpark by Lookout Spiel. So in taking a look at the report card for Barenpark, I'm going to give the number of players a B. I give it a B because it plays between 2 to 4 players, which is my standard for these kinds of games, so I give it the B. And so in the learning for Barenpark, I'm going to give the game a B+. I give it the B+ because it takes a concept which is difficult to teach, like spatial reasoning, especially in a board game form, and it helps the people playing it to develop their understanding of it through being able to visualize the spaces that they need, how the pieces are going to fit, and just the planning and everything. Plus, which it also includes some mathematics where you're doing the addition of the points towards the end. So there's as you've tallied up all your points, it's a good way to look at different strategies, which is something that I show even my adult friends as we are adding up the points, how I group according to groups of 10s. So groups of 10s, maybe groups of 20 points, and then I can just more easily add the groups together to find the total. So all in all, it takes some of these different concepts and has a really good sort of delivery system for helping to teach them, helping people to understand them through the play of the game. For fun, I'm going to give the game an A. I have played this game a number of times, many times, and with many different people, and it always seems to go over very well. I don't think I've ever found anybody that has not enjoyed the game, and it's one of those games as you play it over and over again, it's going to be different every time because of the way that the game is played, as you will see when I show the how it's played part. But it's really one of those games. It's fun as long as you're enjoying this kind of thing with the spatial reasoning, then I think you'll enjoy this game. For time, I'm going to give the game a C. If we're looking at this game for the kind of thing for a classroom, it takes about 45 minutes to an hour to play, I would say, and maybe with the setup and everything, it can be around an hour, setup and clean up. So you're going to be kind of pushed for that time. This would be the kind of game that I would see being played like in a board game club, whether that's before or after school, so where you don't feel that sort of time pressure in order to complete the game in that time. It is one to consider. So for cost, I'm going to give the game a C. Level Up Games sells this game for $42.50, which is, for what you're getting in the game, I think it's still a good price. But if you're looking at the cost of games and how many people are playing it, and how many you would need if you're going to be doing more than one, it is not cheap as far as games go. So I understand that there are other games which are less expensive and can play more players, and those are the ones that would rank higher for me. So this one is a little more on the more expensive side for the games, but an excellent game nonetheless. And like I said, it's hard to find those games which are teaching these kinds of spatial reasoning skills. So this is a good one to consider. All right, let me take this game to the table and I will show you how it's played. So here's a basic setup for Barenpark. So you have, this is different sections of the board, and I'm going to explain what these different sections mean. Now I'm setting up for a 2-player game, and so these boards here represented by different countries. So this is like French, and you can flip on the back, and I'm not sure what flag that is, to be honest. I'm not very good with my flags, but so there's Netherlands, and maybe I should have researched these before I admitted to you that I don't know what these flags are. But so they have different flags representing different countries. Really makes no difference in terms of what country it is. It's just going to have a different configuration of where these things are. But you're going to see that they have 3 of these green wheelbarrows, 2 cement trucks, and 1 roped off area, which I'll explain, and then these construction workers. So in a 2-player game, one thing that you're going to be doing, now you have these points here, these are these bear statues, and the bear statues in the 2-player game, you're going to be taking out all the odd numbered ones. So there's only going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. There we go. So that is what we're left with. So those can go away. Likewise, you're going to do the same thing for these here. These are the different bear enclosures. So you have 4 different kinds of bears in the game. You have the goby bears, the polar bears, the panda bears, and the koala bears. And they do state in the rules, they are aware of the fact that koalas are not actually bears, but they say people like koalas, so they're going to keep them in there. So take out the 7, the 5, the 3, and the 1, and you do the same for each of those. Right, so I'll just take off the 7s so you're not seeing those. And you'll also likewise adjust the number of food streets you have, streams, playgrounds, and toilets. Now the first player to go, so let's say the first player is the player on the left here, they're going to get a toilet to start, whereas the second player is going to get a playground. If you're playing a 4-player game, then the third player gets a playground as well, and the fourth player will get the food street. It's just one way to help to mitigate for those people who start first and get that advantage of being able to pick things first. And so the people who are going later have the advantage of covering more squares from the beginning than the first person who starts. So now what's going to happen in the player's turn is you're going to put the tile that you have down. So you're starting with that one tile. You're going to put it down on one of these spaces on your board. Now, have to remember a couple things. That one, when you're putting a tile down, one, you can never cover this with one of your tiles. That's going to be covered by the bear statue when every other tile on this is covered. So 2 is when you're putting a tile down, the next tiles you're putting down are going to be having to touch this one orthogonally, which means not diagonally, but around the 4 cardinal points. Third, wherever you put it down is the reward or the next tile that you're going to get. So really the first one would be a very bad move to put it here because you get nothing for it. There's nothing there. So this is where these things come in. So you see here, there's a green wheelbarrow here, a cement truck here, and then like a steam shovel, backhoe thing here. So depending on where you put your piece, that's going to dictate what you're going to get for the next turn. The construction workers aren't here. That's because the construction workers will give you a new tile, and you have to take one of the top 2 tiles. You divide these into 2 piles, and you're going to take one of those. Again, that wouldn't be a good choice because I could put it there, I could get my new tile, but then I have nothing to put on there. And if you ever have nothing to put on, you get a toilet by default as your turn, but then that's just a real waste. So, waste, get it? No. So if I'm looking at these, so these are the better ones to get. So you see they start off in points values in ascending order. So you start descending order rather, sorry. So they start at 6 points, and then there'll be 4 points and 2 points. So getting those early on is good. So maybe I'll put this here, and then looking at the configuration I have here, I could take, taking this wouldn't be good because I can't put it anywhere there. Remember, it has to be touching. So I'll take anything else that's there. So maybe I'll take the polar bears. All right, and the polar bears then goes for my next turn. So then this player goes, and they are going to put this one down here. And they don't want to take polar bears because that'll be less points. So they're just going to go for the pandas. And then we'll remove that 5 because there's nothing there. So this player comes back again. And now they're going to put this one down like so. Now you see with this one, they're covering 2 pieces. So they're going to get both of those things with the one. So they're going to get the streams and maybe the food street because those cover 3 squares. Each of those covers 3 squares. We're trying to maximize our coverage each turn. So now this player is going to take this one, and they can flip it either side. So they're going to flip it this way, and they're going to take the construction workers with that thing there. So they're going to take the food street, and they're going to take this one. Now this one adds, you can add it here, but when you add another one after that, it can never go below the line on your board here. So now difficult to see for the camera, but I mean you can build around it. I did these just so you can see it in here in the camera angle, but you're going to fill these up, and the game is going to finish when you have filled up 4 of these boards. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So when 4 boards are completely filled, that will signify the end of the game. So now as the gameplay goes through, so now this player, one thing you can also do as well, so with this one covered, they could, if they choose, take this piece they have and cover across that it overlaps to. That is fine, as long as it's not dangling into space like that. But you're perfectly allowed to do that. And then they're going to take another one, so maybe at this point they'll take this one. And I'm just going to just move forward with this one so you start to see more of the play of how you use these things. So now when I cover this, and then here's only on these pieces you get as this, the beginning pieces don't have access to these. Only the pieces you get from the construction workers will have these. So when you take this one, this is where these ones get a little bit tricky. You're starting to think of how you can use these pieces effectively. So maybe something like this. And so as you start to fill in these pieces, and as things get filled in, once you have filled in a space completely, oh, I can't do that one. Let's see. We'll take that. Okay. So now you see this tile here that was completely filled in. So this player at this point would take the highest value bear statue and put it into that space. And so there's a race to try and finish off your tiles as quickly as you can, but also to be maximizing your points. So this is why it's important to always make sure that you are not leaving yourself with nothing to get, because you really don't want to be putting toilets on. You really don't want to be putting yourself into that space where it's you don't have access to, to be able to get the things you want to fill those spaces. So it's planning ahead, not leaving yourself boxed into that corner where you're trying to fill a space and you can't because the way that the pieces are fitting. So it's a real sort of puzzly game, very literally and figuratively, in terms of how you are approaching these problems and solving this. At the end of the game, what you're going to do is you're going to add up all the points you have on your boards. So even the player who didn't finish the game still could win if they have more points. So you're going to add up your bear statues, you're going to add up every tile that you have. You see that any of these tiles here from the wheelbarrow section have no points. It's only things beyond that, so those really need to be your focus. But that's, you tile up your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, one thing I didn't mention in the original part of the game is there are also things you can play with which give you different goals to work with towards the game. So, for example, if you build 3 food streets in a straight line, again, they can be rewards in the descending value. So the first person gets 9, and then the next person gets less than that. So whoever builds 3 polar bear paddocks, so 3 polar bear things. Now polar bears can be like these ones, or these ones also contain polar bears. So as long as you have 3 of them, so this person has 2 of the 3, then they're well on their way to getting that achievement. There's ones where you're trying to get one of these, each of these different paddocks. So the 4 different kinds, once you have all 4 kinds in your park. So there's all kinds of different achievements that you can be looking at to get. You choose a few in the start of the game, and that will play out for the whole game. So this way too is another way in which the use of those different goals can make each game that much different, because each game you're going to be trying to achieve different goals on different boards. So every time it just feels different, which to me makes it more fun. And that's how you play Barenpark. Let me take you to my final thoughts. Well, that's it for today's episode on Barenpark. Just in my final thoughts, I just think that the game is a good game. I really enjoy the game. I love the game. And if you're considering this kind of game, I would consider it either for home play or for a board game club, which is before or after school. It's not the kind of game which I would recommend for an in-class lesson to be teaching these kinds of concepts, like to be teaching spatial reasoning through the play of this game. No. This is the kind of game which reinforces the ideas, which helps the brain to see those patterns, to make these kinds of connections, but it's not the kind of game which I would be saying I would include as part of my spatial reasoning class in the classroom. But again, fantastic game, love it, and for all those other reasons I mentioned, I would still say it's a game that I do recommend. Now, if you have any other games which you know of that you can recommend to the channel that revolve around spatial reasoning or any kinds of math or any kind of anything, please let me know in the comment section below. I do love to hear from the viewers, and I'd love to hear about those different games that are out there. There's just so many games, I can't possibly cover them all, but I like to focus on the ones which people maybe think are the best ones for teaching particular subjects or concepts or whatever. If you have any other ideas for gamification, game-based learning, that is what I'm doing on this channel. If you're new to this channel, I'm putting out videos on a weekly basis all around game-based learning, gamification, and how we can use games like this in education. I've started to do a look at online learning games as well. Just because of the state that we're in right now with a lot of virtual learning, I know this is something that people are looking for. So if this sounds good to you, please remember to hit like and subscribe down below. It really does help. And I will see you again next week. Until then, I'm Craig Thompson with the Board Game Teacher saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with me?